right, good afternoon. Welcome to Indian River County's August 1st, 2 p.m. briefing on Hurricane Isaias. County administration officials and the County Emergency Services Department continue to work with our local municipalities, law enforcement, and state agencies to prepare for the potential impacts to our community and to ensure that all Indian River County residents are kept safe during this tropical event. At this time, Hurricane Isaias is currently forecast to travel just off the Treasure Coast, paralleling the coast, and the impacts of the hurricane are scheduled to reach our community late this evening and early into Sunday morning. Indian River County is under a hurricane warning, and hurricane conditions are likely for our area. Impacts from Hurricane Isaias include periods of heavy rain, sustained tropical storm winds to borderline hurricane winds between 60 to 75 miles per hour. The storm surge watch is in effect for the east coast of Florida from Jupiter Inlet to Ponte Vedra Beach, including our area. I want to talk about potential bridge closures. There's potential for closure of the barrier island bridges in the community. However, our Emergency Services Department will continue to work with our partner agencies to determine whether that is necessary. If such a decision is made, the public will be informed by EOC alert, and notices will be placed on the county's website and social media platforms. I want to talk about voluntary evacuations. We are currently recommending a voluntary evacuation for residents of mobile and manufactured homes, those living in low-lying areas known to flood, and those living on the barrier island. While we encourage residents in these vulnerable areas to first seek shelter at the home of a family member or a friend, the county has opened 3 emergency shelters that will open at 2 o'clock this afternoon. First is the Special Needs Shelter, which is located at Treasure Coast Elementary at 8955 on 85th Street in Sebastian. We encourage residents who may need to utilize special needs sheltering to register before tropical events. Even if you're not currently registered for a special needs shelter, you can arrive at Treasure Coast Elementary and get signed in. Next, we have our pet-friendly shelter is at Liberty Magnet School, and that is located at 6580 81st Street, Vero Beach. And also, we have a general population shelter open at the Freshman Learning Center at 1507 on 19th Street in Vero Beach. Potential evacuees are reminded that there is a risk for COVID-19 when around large groups of people, such as in a public shelter. Therefore, we encourage seeking shelter at the home of a family member or a friend before considering visiting one of the 3 shelters opened by the county. Remember, county hurricane shelters should be considered a last resort after you've considered options such as staying with a friend or family member or evacuating out of the area if you need to do so. Additionally, those who do seek shelter at one of the 3 shelters opened by the county will be required to abide by all social distancing guidelines, and masks will be required. Reasonable accommodations will be made for those who are unable to wear masks due to medical limitations or impairments. Asking everyone to be prepared. While it's still unclear whether Hurricane Isaias will make landfall as a hurricane in our area, please remember to take all necessary precautions to protect yourself, family, and vulnerable loved ones. This includes preparing a hurricane kit, checking in on vulnerable loved ones, and staying informed by signing up for the Indian River County Alert System at alertindianriver.com. That's alertindianriver.com. Asking everyone to stay informed. In addition to signing up for those alerts, the County Emergency Information Center has opened at 2 o'clock this afternoon, and we will continue to provide residents with up-to-date information about potential impacts of the hurricane throughout this evening and all day tomorrow. So you can reach the county's Emergency Information Center by calling 772-226-4000. That is 772-226-4000. As always, remember to visit the county's website at ircgov.com. Like us on Facebook at the county page, and follow us on Twitter at IRCGov to receive the most up-to-date information related to the county's response to the hurricane. I want to thank county residents for taking the threat of the hurricane seriously and for doing everything you can to fully prepare for the potential effects of this storm. By working together and looking out for each other, we will successfully get through this tropical event as we have many times before. just want to remind everyone, while the forecast is for this to track along the coast, I want to make sure everyone's taking it carefully, seriously. We've been occupied with a lot of other things during the last few months, but I want to make sure that we do not take anything for granted. So please make sure that you take those final preparations. You have several hours to do so today before the storm arrives. And with that, stay safe and be well. And I just want to let you know that we'll send out a notice as soon as possible if we have any additional scheduled press briefings. Thank you.
What conditions would cause the closure of the bridges, and how much notice would residents have?
So based on conditions at the time, once you reach a certain wind speed, and based on the local conditions, those determinations will be made. We're working with our partners, with the local PDs, Sheriff's Office, the Florida Department of Transportation to make those determinations. We will get the word out as soon as possible once we make those
And
decisions.
is there anything that people need to bring with them to shelters?
You would bring the normal supplies that you need to for an overnight shelter. Maybe I'll turn over to Ted Keystone for more specific answer on that question.
Okay, thank you. We just want to remind everybody that an emergency shelter is a shelter of last resort. We don't have beds there. We don't have a lot of the comforts of home. So you do need to bring some bedding material with you. We will be serving snacks and very light meals. So if you want to bring some additional foodstuffs with you, that we encourage you to do that also.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Which, you talked about low-lying areas, barrier islands. Are there communities in general, neighborhoods in general that you're particularly keeping your eye on right now that you think might have the most impacts that you can name?
Not so much the neighborhoods, but what we look at is anything that's to the east of US 1, and that's typically if we have a storm surge event. Although we're under a storm surge warning at this time, we don't anticipate that to be a factor in this county. Normally that gets triggered after 3 foot of rise, or we anticipate 3 foot of rise, and we're just at that mark right now with the worst case scenarios that with the modeling that's been run. So basically, those that are in mobile homes, substandard housing, on the other east side of US 1 are the ones we're concerned with most.
What are the biggest impacts you're expecting from this storm? You just said you're not as worried about storm surges if based on this model, but what's the impact that you're most worried about right now?
Well, the biggest concern, of course, is debris, down trees, down power lines, those types of things. The potential may be out there for some areas of the county to be without power for several days. We also want to make sure that we eliminate any traffic hazards that we would have out there. Historically, when we feel that we're going to get hit with a much more substantial storm, we would go through and remove traffic lights and those types of things. We're not doing it in this event. So we just want people to be extremely careful when they're out driving around after this storm passes. Okay. All right, anything else, sir?
Ted, I did have a question. Can you talk about how social distancing will be in place at these shelters?
Yeah, when we did our initial reviews of the capacities of those shelters, we had to change our old modeling. So we built that into the new shelter modeling. So we've allocated 60 square feet per person, which historically we only set aside 20 square feet per person. So we've got the additional space that we're able to spread out in the shelters. They're also going to have, we've got additional PPE that was delivered this morning from the state, and we already delivered all that additional extra PPE to the shelter sites. So we'll have the hand sanitizers there, we'll have the masks there, we'll have all those items that we need in each one of those shelters. But the 6 foot, we have enough staff there to kind of monitor the population as they walk through the shelter spaces to make sure that we're maintaining those social distancings.
How long do you anticipate the shelters being open?
I'm hoping to close them late tomorrow afternoon. and it may have to go into first thing Monday morning, depending on how the wind fields hold up and those types of things. I don't want to put anybody on the road or having to leave a shelter when I've still got tropical storm force winds out there. So maybe late tomorrow afternoon, early into the evening, if we don't have too much power disruption. If not, it'll be first thing Monday morning.
When do you think the worst time for the storm, parallel to you, if it goes the way it's going? When is the worst time for Indian River County?
It's going to be very late, up till midnight tonight, and then going into Sunday morning. So we're expecting about a 4-hour time block, 11 o'clock tonight, going into about 3 o'clock. That's when we're kind of guessing the worst is going to be. Now, of course, that storm has already slowed up twice today, so we're watching it pretty close to make sure.
You talked about social distancing in shelters. Has the pandemic caused any changes in your ability to respond to potential incidents or effects? Is there anything that's going to be slowed down or affected or hampered because of the pandemic when it comes to emergency response?
No, we've been under the same model that we've been operating on since March. We have units that are dedicated solely to COVID response. One of the few areas on the East Coast that actually does that now. So we're not going to change our protocol at all. We're going to continue to respond to the patients. If they have those signs and symptoms that cause us some concern, we actually dispatch a specialized unit to go pick them up and transport them to the hospital.
And everybody at the shelters will have a mask. You have enough masks for
Yes, sir.
everybody?
Yes, sir. To take them for about 3 days if I have to.
Okay.
And my last question, we talked about social distancing at shelters. What messages do you have for the public who might be rooming with family members or friends, as you've suggested? What messages do you have for them to stay safe amid the pandemic?
The same as always. If it's not a close family member, they don't live with you on a regular basis, we encourage you to maintain that social distancing of at least 6 feet. Encourage you to have a mask on when you're in, not your home, but somebody else's home. So all those things still come into play.
For those evacuating to the shelters, can they have to just register at the shelter, or can they register online?
Special needs, they should have already registered for special needs here with us already. That's an ongoing program with us year-round. But if they do show up and they do have a special need, we will take them into the shelter at that point.
Okay. And is the county passing out sandbags?
No,
Are they
we
planning-
don't do sandbags.
Oh, okay.
All righty. Anything else? All right, thank you all very much. Jason, next update?
All right, thank you for coming. As I stated, we will announce any future press conferences as they occur. Thank you for coming.